And it's frustrating to be in Yifan's shoes. I mean, she had no reason to think that she should lose that game. But what did we say earlier that game, Robert? We talked about the time management earlier when it didn't seem as important, and it came back to bite her.
Yep. It's just unfortunate because, of course, if this was a classical game, then she would have had no problem defending. But we keep seeing our time ticking down, and it goes to show. We made a comment at the move knight takes e5 followed by bishop a3. You and I talked about it immediately, and if we're seeing it, there's no doubt in my mind that she's seeing it, but she's just not playing it as quick. And of course, we don't have the responsibility the players do.
Yep.
We don't have to worry that the result may hurt us emotionally, all that stuff. So we can just suggest something, and if it's wrong, well, it doesn't affect us. But at a certain moment, you have to give up your sort of perfectionism, and we've talked about this about ourselves, Danny, that sometimes we just spend too much time trying to find the perfect move, and it really comes back to haunt us. So I think Yifan, this game, she's playing very quickly. She knows that she should get an opening advantage with the white pieces against the Pirtz. But, yeah, missed opportunities thus far is the story of the day.
And 2 games, really, that were missed opportunities precisely because it was self-induced time trouble, right? The first game was one that she shouldn't have lost. So she's really done pretty well as black, actually, from the perspective that had 2 positions as black. She had no business losing, but because of time pressure, she wasn't able to hold up against Hikaru's poking and prodding that he does so well. But, okay, so let's talk about this one here. She does have an opening advantage. This pawn on d5 represents significantly more space for white. And bishop h6 is nice. a4 is a good move that keeps black's pawns here on the queen side, kind of stuck and preventing Sicilian-style expansion.
And just play knight d4.
Knight d4,
because,
bishop f3. The point on knight d4, everybody, is you can't take on d5.
Well, maybe you can. That's actually now I started second-guessing myself.
Because you're saying that he'll just go all in and open up his king and doesn't care because a pawn is a pawn?
Yep.
Okay.
But she did it, and he didn't take it on d5. And now you definitely don't want to take on d5 for black because your a6 pawn is hanging. So if you're white, you consider playing h4 or maybe queen g5 so you can threaten knight f5 check. That could be a bit of a nuisance.
Yeah, I like queen g5, but I also like just the overall structure here for white, Robert. If she plays bishop f3 to guard d5, this rook on d1 has sort of served its purpose. Maybe flip it over to the e file and target the e7 pawn, right? That's a Marco Hop structure we have here, and white should be better if you can just start exerting pressure against the backward e7 pawn. So
right, and black's real source of counterplay is the c file, and the knight is sort of stuck to c3, and maybe black will check on knight e5 to c4 as a source of counterplay.
Yeah.
So she plays rook c1 for that very exact purpose, that now my pawn is c2, I don't have to worry about forever. If my knight moves from c3, I can play c4 myself, and knight e5 played now still can go rook e1, as you suggested.
Yep.
Once more, the pawn on d5, it's hard to take that pawn with the pawn on a6 hanging. That's a very important pawn to the queenside structure. So queen e3, rook e1, all of these moves seem to make perfect sense. Queen g5 is a third option.
No, but I think you're right. These moves are intuitively easy to play as you understand the structure. So it's something where right here, it might, she's spending a lot of time here already, right? She spent 46 seconds on the last move, and she's on pace to do the same here. So this is where it starts to be tough. And as you said, easier for us to say, right? But I think you have to, at some point, you have to remember that a lot of times in Blitz, just the fact that you're playing confidently and quickly is just as important as playing the best move a lot of the time. So,
yep.
Okay, queen e3 goes for it. Almost 3,000 of you with us now. Thanks for being here. Thanks for spending your Thursday night with me and the Bobster. Your mom likes when I call you Bob, right?
She's listening right now. She's probably very mad at you. A nice thing, Danny, about knight f3 is that after knight c4, I can take, and your b6 pawn hangs.
Ooh, very nice, yeah.
So you're offering the knight trade without any consequence of the knight coming to c4, because if I wasn't going to take on c4, your knight's going to win my b2 pawn. So I get away with taking on c4 and taking on b6. And now if you play knight takes f3 for black, white just takes back with the bishop on f3. You solidify this d5 pawn, which is really encroaching on black's space. You're restricting black's pieces.
Yep.
And, well, if we start trading the knights, for example, a knight coming to e4 after that, then white can expand on the queen side at long last by playing c4 or b4 and things like that.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Robert. Obviously, you highlighted earlier that kind of the c file is awkward for white, and that might be one thing black has going for him. So if if white could move the knight and get c4 and b4, you start to realize white has a 3-on-2 pawn majority over here. And again, black's majority is not effective here because the e7 pawn is backward. In fact, it's starting to make me think that Hikaru might try to find some way to aggressively play e6 at some point if he can get away with it. The risk of ever moving this e-pawn, everybody, is that it always opens up attacking chances against the d-pawn.
Yep.
But, okay, queen c5. This is a good move for black.
Yeah, I think, well, if I take on e5, you take on e3 first. And so you give white that sort of awkward backward e-pawn. But at the same time, black will have double e-pawns himself. So if I play knight e5, you take on e3. And then
at the end of the line, white has e4 too, which...
And white also has d6, just trying to trade off that passed d-pawn for the e-pawn to get the d6 square for your rooks. So I expect her to play queen f4 because she's thinking for so long that she's going to avoid it altogether. But I think you can get away with knight takes e5, queen takes e3, pawn e3, pawn takes e5, d6, and sort of taking over the d file. That'll become the most useful file.
Yep. And well, and what I was highlighting is that white could even play e4 at the end of that line, Robert, because the king comes to f2 and e3, holds down the e4 pawn, which frees up the knight. And again, white has a majority over here on the queen side. She goes for your line with d6. But I'm not sure that a slower approach there of e4, king f2, king e3 wasn't also good.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I think that she sort of seized the moment here. She saw that if her rook can get to d6, white should probably be better here. So now take and rook b6. Just get your rook behind that pawn. Actually, just go and win it. Looks pretty nice for white. So rook b6. I'm starting to think of exchange sacrifices. Rook takes c3, following knight d5. It's getting complicated here.
Yeah, knight d5, rook b5, not possible because of knight to c3, everybody, which would be a whole lot of forks. In fact, I'm sure that's what she's thinking of right now. Hikaru kind of calm there, right? No longer rocking the magical head bob. She decides she's just going to go take b5 right away, right? A pawn's a pawn.
Yeah, this is so knight g3. Okay, compensation. Where's this bishop going to? If you play bishop d3, black can play e4, for example, and keep at that bishop. The good thing about black playing e4 from white's point of view is that the bishop on b7 looks worse. But taking off the bishop off the board, so he went bishop e4.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, as Kingish Gambino is flexing the fork emote in the chat, he's right. You can't move the bishop from d3 without knight e2 check coming in. And bishop e4 is a strong move.
Yeah, and so knight c3, so rook takes c3. Don't we have a problem with that fork again?
Yeah. Fork town.
Yeah, this is not looking very good here.
Bishop takes d3, c takes d3, rook takes c3.
No, take on c3 first.
Okay. Takes,
so rook
takes.
And then bishop takes d3.
And you win a piece at the end of the line.
So it looks like
problems.
Yeah. So now maybe bishop takes e4. Is that an intermediate move?
I think it's the only way. Yeah, bishop e4, the point, everybody, is that, yes, the fork happens, but the rook on c3 hangs at the end. So we'll see what Hikaru's calculated. I'm sure he's anticipating bishop takes e4.
And she's in time trouble once more. This is really not looking good for her.
Yep.
17 seconds and counting down. So she did take on e4. Now if rook takes e3, I guess white has to play king f2. And then rook takes e4, king takes g3. We're in that weird endgame with rook and 4, 2 rooks and 4 versus 2 rooks and 4, but the pawns are split for white, which is either a huge advantage or a huge disadvantage right here in this position because of the exposed king on g3. I'm a bit concerned about how this will pan out.
I like what she's doing here, though. I think the all-in approach with the pawn that you already had your rook behind, basically reminding Hikaru that if he plays for rook e2 and takes, he may end up having to take some sort of perpetual because this queen is coming. But I think something tells me Hikaru won't take perpetual. He'll try for mate. So how does that happen? Something with f5 and f4?
F5 for sure.
Yeah, so he's playing tickle right now, which makes sense when your opponent only has 10 seconds. He's just trying to poke and prod. But But it's risky, right? I mean, the nice thing is he probably has a perpetual no matter what. But she's already in a position, Robert, where even if there is a mate and he pushes f5, she just has to go right ahead and just push the c pawn in and hope there isn't one.
Yeah, and he's doing a great job of using his time at critical moments here. So I would try, because we see f5 as c7, then rook h2. Is that an option to try to checkmate on the third rank?
So you said rook e to
F5?
h2. Okay, f5 first.
c7 and rook to h2.
Threatening rook takes h3 and rook d3 mate, everybody. Two mates.
You have king g3 there, so
Right.
it doesn't work out.
It looks like it's just more tickle.
So maybe after f5, c7, can I go g5, threatening e4 check and rook e3 mate?
King e3.
So f4. No, this is mate.
She just mated herself.
Yeah, rook f to e2, rook
D-
e3 check.
Rook e3, king g4, rook g3, rook over to...
Wait, he blundered. c8 queen protects h3.
c8 queen protects h3. There's no way he...
Oh, she resigned a winning position for her.
Was that really winning?
Yes, you protect h3 by c8 equals queen.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. And it's because Hikaru moved the wrong rook to the g file. If he moved his rook from the d2 to g2 with check, rather than the rook from e3 to g3, he would have been winning. Instead, he quickly moved the wrong rook.
Yeah, he's shaking his head now and looking around like, oh my gosh, I just blundered that game.
Yeah, his eyes.
he's like, oh crap, that was a mistake.
Yep.
He's funny.